Welcome to Coffee with Lewa. Real talk, true stories, and PNG over coffee. This is a space for real conversations about the challenges, triumphs, and untold stories of Papua New Guinea. Over a cup of coffee, we speak the truth, we share insight, and explore different perspectives on issues that matter. Coffee with Lewa is where dialogue flows freely, voices are heard, and ideas are shared to spark understanding and change. So I invite you to grab your coffee because, as always, this is going to be a good one. Thank you for being with us. You're watching Coffee with Lewa. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share the link with your family and friends to start a watch party right now. We're happy you're here. At Coffee with Lewa, we use this platform to highlight key voices and discuss national issues of importance. And today, we're excited to introduce a brand new segment called Food for Thought, exclusive to this show. This segment is about diving deeper into the most pressing questions facing our country. These are some of the hard questions we ask of our guests who join the show, and we want to hear your thoughts too. These are questions that we as Papua New Guineans need to ask, and it's our democratic right for our leaders to answer us. Today, we are unpacking something serious, something that affects all of us in Papua New Guinea, and that is the IMF loan. You have probably heard that Papua New Guinea secured a US $918 million loan facility from the International Monetary Fund. But what you probably have not heard is, what are the strings attached? What did we agree to? And why did we even go to the IMF in the first place? Let's start here. What is the IMF? The International Monetary Fund was created in 1944 to help countries stabilize their economies during crisis. Sounds noble, right? But here's what actually happens. When countries borrow money from the IMF, they must agree to very strict conditions. These aren't just suggestions, they are actually mandatory changes to how you run your economy. It's a bit like going to a pawnbroker when your house is burning down. Sure, you get some cash up front, but the cost of what you give up can leave you worse off. Here's the real issue. No one in Papua New Guinea has seen the full details of the IMF deal. The Marape Rosso government has not released the exact stipulations, conditions, or benchmarks. And that's a problem, because if a country agrees to cut public spending, sell off state assets, or freeze public sector wages, don't the people have the right to know? The Treasurer says we qualified for this loan because of our sound economic management. But if we are doing so well, why go to the IMF at all? So what did PNG agree to? Here's what we know from IMF reports. We have agreed to fiscal surplus by 2027. This is only doable if resource projects move ahead as planned. The real question is, what will we do if those projects do not materialize? At present, several major resource projects remain stalled or delayed. These include Papua LNG, developed by Total Energies, awaiting FID and construction; Pinyang Gas Project, still in negotiation; Wafi Golpu Mine, awaiting resolution of landowner and permit issues; Frida River Project, delayed by environmental assessment concerns; Pasca A offshore gas project, experiencing regulatory hurdles; Ramu 2 hydropower project, facing financing and environmental clearance issues. If these projects do not proceed as scheduled, PNG's ability to meet IMF surplus targets may become unrealistic. Tax reform. But what does that actually mean? The IMF often pushes for tax reform measures such as expanding VAT base, reducing exemptions, introducing or increasing sin taxes on alcohol, tobacco, and the like, and improving enforcement of corporate taxes. Will we become more efficient at collecting taxes from large businesses and foreign companies, or will the burden shift to ordinary citizens through higher VAT and everyday taxes? Climate spending integration. Papua New Guinea must now embed climate resilience into infrastructure and public investments. This raises critical questions. Will this restrict the government's ability to invest in hydrocarbon projects like oil and gas? The IMF's language often encourages shifting public investment toward renewable energy, disaster resilience, and carbon reduction. So, how will this affect our current economic plans that still rely on extractive industries? PNG has a potential value of roughly US $430 billion in unmonetized hydrocarbon wealth. Are we going to forgo this based on the commitment that we have made to the IMF? Again, these are questions that need to be answered by the government. Debt buffer planning. The government must develop buffers to prepare for future disasters or shocks. But how do we do this when the day-to-day fundamentals of disaster preparedness are already so weak? Our country still struggles with weak service delivery systems, from hospitals that lack basic supplies to clinics without consistent access to medication to unreliable electricity and water in both rural and urban areas. Without addressing these core issues, the idea of building financial buffers for future crises feels disconnected from the reality that we live. In practice, for Papua New Guinea, this could include prioritizing debt repayment over new spending, limiting or freezing public sector wages or recruitment, delaying infrastructure or service delivery projects to preserve cash, committing to conditional triggers for borrowing. Are we saying that the IMF is encouraging us to focus on debt repayment and not the urgent need for rapid development of our country? Is the real problem here debt financing, or is it misallocation and misappropriation of our existing public expenditure? On a recent episode of Coffee with Lewa, a private sector leader revealed that they spend nearly 12 million kina each year just to generate their own power. If we are borrowing this much money, why is it not leading to faster development and better service delivery? Our country still struggles with weak service delivery systems. Without addressing these core issues, the idea of building financial buffers for future crises feels disconnected from the reality. The government needs to tell the public if the priorities are aligned with the IMF stipulations for the loan, or if they are focused on accelerating the development of the country. IMF monitoring. This includes regular visits, reporting obligations, and policy surveillance to ensure we meet all their requirements. When the IMF opens a physical office in country, it usually means a more permanent presence of IMF staff who can directly observe, engage with, and influence policy implementation. They are there to track progress, ensure compliance with the agreed benchmarks, and offer technical advice. But it also means a form of economic oversight. We were told that we are partnering with the IMF to grow the economy, but the typical purpose of an IMF office is not to grow the economy. It is to ensure that you are doing what you committed to in order to get the loan in the first place. Their presence raises an important question. If we are a sovereign nation with our own central bank and Ministry of Treasury, why do we need international monitors in our backyard watching every financial decision we make? And also, who pays for this office? Is it part of the loan? The presence of an IMF office means deeper conditionality, tighter surveillance, and higher compliance reporting, all of which diverts government resources like time, personnel, admin away from service delivery. Let's look at history. In Ghana in 2023, IMF forced them to cut fuel subsidies and increase VAT. Sri Lanka saw food prices triple after IMF-led restructuring. Kenya, Zambia, and Pakistan all experienced mass unrest, currency devaluation, and reduced public services. Not a single wealthy country is currently under the IMF program. Why? Because countries go to the IMF when they are in trouble, when no one else will lend them money. The IMF does not just lend money. It monitors you. They send teams, they supervise policy changes, they expect compliance, not consultation. In effect, Papua New Guinea is now under surveillance by an external economic authority. Do they understand the realities of our people, say in Goilala, Tari, or Telefomin? And we may be forced to implement austerity measures like cutting health, education, and roads just to hit their benchmarks. And guess who suffers the most? Yes, you guessed it. Ordinary Papua New Guineans. Families, youth, workers. If the major resource projects we mentioned earlier do not come into fruition and we do not have surplus by 2027 as the government has committed to, then what happens? Will we continue to borrow? And if so, under what terms? Will the IMF tighten the screws and push for more mandatory changes to how we run the economy? For example, laying off public servants, increasing taxes, and other austerity measures? Are they flexible, or do they lock us into a cycle of borrowing and compliance without allowing us the space to respond to the real and urgent development needs of Papua New Guinea? We are a country still struggling without basic service delivery. Many citizens lack access to healthcare, clean water, reliable electricity, and decent infrastructure. Shouldn't our focus be on addressing these gaps instead of constantly meeting external benchmarks? Papua New Guinea is at crossroads. The IMF loan may offer short-term relief, but at what long-term cost? As citizens, we must ask, what are we trading for this funding? Are we solving the root problems, or are we just postponing the pain? This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about our hospitals, our children's future, our sovereignty, and our right to choose a path that works for Papua New Guinea. We invite you to reflect on this, analyze the facts, and share your voice. Let's keep the conversation going in our homes, in our communities, and online, because only an informed public can hold power for real change and real development. To our viewers, it's your turn now. Let's take this conversation to the comments section. Let us know your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and share this link with your family and friends to keep the dialogue flowing. We appreciate you and we thank you for being here. And we'll see you on the next one right here on Coffee with Lewa.